Hi, welcome back. We're continuing our conversation looking at the South African film production industry, and we're going into our final panel discussion for the evening. And we're looking at South African producers going global and taking our stories internationally. And I think when we've been speaking about the regulatory environment, when we're talking about the economic impact and really understanding productions, there's not just one thing that exists for entertainment, but a number of different touch points that exist around it. For me, this final panel discussion is the image of that. And what are we talking about when we're looking at the faces and the people that we're coming together to support. And I'm really excited to hear the insights from this particular panel. So joining me in studio, I have Isaac Mokajane, who's the executive producer at Diprente Films. And then also joining us in studio is Azania Mwendane. And then also in studio, we have Katlego Ramaphakela. And then joining us virtually, we do have apologies from Bradley Joshua and Pippa Althric. Because of time constraints, they weren't able to join us because they were tuning in from different regions. But we do have virtually Quentin Fredericks, who's the producer at Spear Films, and Vanessa Ann Sinden, who's the producer at Triggerfish Animation. Starting with you, Quentin, we had some conversation coming in from our previous panels talking about how do we create a sustainable environment, and also understanding the fact that we can't have a one solution fits everybody, right? So from your perspective, I want to know what are some of the new or alternative business models that you're seeing coming through, and how do we apply those within a South African context?
Okay, so I can probably speak to our experience as Spear Films in terms of the production that we finished last year called The Professionals, which was a co-production between and which was partly financed by the IDC in terms of their loan financing facility, and then the DTI rebate, which accounted for approximately 49% of the total production budget. And this is essentially a model that has always existed, but I don't think has been fully exploited in the South African context in terms of all the co-production treaties that we have. And just to say that the big thing for us, obviously, in South Africa and bringing innovative content to the international market is the question of the quality of the product and the investment in writing and script development, which I think is something that Eddie Mbalo alluded to many years ago when he was CEO of the NFVF, and that we as an industry have been lobbying and agitating for, is that if we want to produce quality product that is commercially viable and that has universal appeal to the international market, then we need greater investment in our writing talent. We also need mentorship, we need nurturing, and we need feedback from established international writers to come on board and give insight and support and advice. And that's something that we at Spear Films are driving in terms of a mentorship program with up-and-coming young writing and producing talent. We've got a business plan that Deloitte & Touche has developed for us, and it's based on many years of experience that we've had in terms of these challenges. So with regard to Professionals, for example, is on a production budget of approximately $27 million, we ended up with 165 million being spent in South Africa. And probably for the first time, and I speak under correction here because there may be instances, but that I'm not aware of, is that we actually had Black creative talent directing 5 of those international episodes out of a 10-part series. And those 2 directors were Tabang Molewa and Oliver Schmidt. And in addition to that, we had the question of the procurement target with regards to the DTI rebate. So this was an Irish-South African co-production, but also partnered with an American showrunner, Michael Colleary, who did Face Off and Tomb Raider. And the process of developing that script was a collaborative process. So we had international writers, and it took about 3 years for us to actually bring the product to market from inception. And then we executed the bulk of that production was actually shot. I think we did 4 episodes in Ireland and we did 6 in South Africa. And the idea essentially was that we would be able to create extensive opportunity for local creative talent, i.e. specifically Black up-and-coming talent, and that at the same time we would give a boost to Black-owned businesses in respect of the DTI rebate scheme, which had set a minimum target of 20% procurement from Black-owned suppliers. We actually exceeded that target by an additional 17%. So we ended up spending something like 57 million rand on Black-owned suppliers in respect of the DTI procurement policy as regards the amendment to the rebate scheme. Now, that model is obviously premised on the fact that the DTI rebate scheme is central to giving foreign investors the peace of mind and the security to invest in a project of this size and magnitude. And only with that in place will we be able to execute that production and also engage with the process of including Black creative talent in the execution of the production, which obviously adds kudos to their credentials in the international marketplace. That coupled with the willingness of the IDC Film and Television Unit to actually come on board and put their money where their mouths are was ultimately what gave this production the impetus it needed to be executed in South Africa. I don't think we would have been able to execute that. And so I think that it's a model that we can easily replicate in South Africa using the co-production treaties, which I don't think are being exploited extensively enough, simply because young up-and-coming directing and producing talent often struggle with the resources to be able to network and to travel to these different territories and to engage with their counterparts in those co-production countries. And that's a challenge. And I think there was an attempt by ATFT a few years ago to actually facilitate that product and that process by taking Black talent to these international markets, including Cannes. But the challenge, of course, is that a lot of these people went to those markets without actual product to sell. And that's actually what we need. So in the South African context with professionals, we had writers like Roland Dixon, who had 30 years of experience. And that's really the kind of talent that you need and experience if you want to execute a project on this size and scale. And that's where the gap falls short in the South African context, because we don't have enough investment in our writing talent and we don't give it enough credibility. So as co-chair of the I, which for the first time in its history has now got a majority Black exco, 50% of whom are Black female producers, directors, and creatives, we are embarking on a program of looking at how we actually drive the development of that in partnership with institutions like the South African Film Academy, the National Arts Council, Department of Arts and Culture, National Film and Video Foundation. And what it actually requires is a collaborative effort by all of these agencies who have a common goal, which is actually to drive the strategic development of the creative industries and film in particular, as far as we are concerned, because the DTI identified the creative sector as a key growth area a couple of years ago at the policy level. Unfortunately, policy and practice is often lagging far behind the other. Okay, so I think there's a couple of things that need to happen, but I can focus on two or three. I think we need stability in the regulatory environment in terms of the rebate. I think we need an understanding in terms of agencies like the IDC and the National Empowerment Fund and other investment bodies in the country that the creative industries is a key growth area. And that's demonstrated in terms of the returns on investment that can be accrued if you do your planning, if you have enough investment in the development process and you've got 5 or 6 or 10 drafts of the script and you've got international mentorship and skilled creatives working with local talent. And then lastly, I think we do need stability in terms of our broadcaster, because if we're going to tell authentic indigenous stories and we're going to celebrate our diversity, as one of the panelists in Joburg was alluding to earlier on, then we need to stabilize that environment, and we need to recognize that investment in skills development is crucial to the growth of the talent pool and the producing pool that will allow us to grow the industry to a point where it can operate independently without outside investment. And then the last point I'd like to mention is the extension of the Section 12J tax incentive or tax rebate that is now going to expire, which has been a model that whereby high net worth individuals can invest as kind of angel investors in projects that are considered high risk by normal commercial investment agencies, but they get a significant tax rebate or a tax holiday for a period of up to 5 years. And I would like to see those kind of mechanisms guaranteed beyond the anticipated year of expiry that's currently being tabled by Treasury. So, yeah.
Yeah, that would be great to see. Thank you very much, Quinton.